So first and foremost, shout out to the Chiefs for winning the Super Bowl, and congratulations to the 49ers for making it. You know, they played a good game. They was up by 10 points, and they just couldn't hold on to the lead. And it could be one of those situations where it's maybe, just maybe, Shanahan is cursed with the curse with being up and somehow crumbling. But their defense showed out, and Pat Mahomes looked like he was a human for a second, and then he turned it on in the fourth quarter. We need to start calling him fourth quarter Mahomes, you say. The kid showed up and he stepped it up. And shout out to Andy Reid for getting his first Super Bowl as a coach, because I think he had a Super Bowl before as an assistant. When we look at everything, shout out to them. The season is now over with. So now we got to go back to the drawing boards and see where our beloved Cowboys can be at in the mix. Now, I will say both teams look very, very explosive as it relates to tackling. Both teams look like they were trying. It's like a complete chess match. And one can argue and say, well, if you look at the 2019 Cowboys, they didn't hold a chance to that. They couldn't even really tackle the way both teams played, and then able to elevate their intensity. But we will say that this is a new year and anything is possible. And it's just how it goes. But when we start to think about this team, I do know I get a lot of people say, well, Law, we don't have a top 5 quarterback. We don't have a top 5 defense. We don't have a quarterback that is elite. We don't have this. We don't have that. And the franchise tag of Dak Prescott, I'm exhausted of talking about Dak Prescott. You know, I love this team so much that I love this team before Dak Prescott even knew what a football was, you see. And for us to just continue to beat a dead horse, either you're pregnant or you're not. There's old folks say that you can't be a little bit pregnant, and that's just the reality of it. So either Jerry Jones loved Dak Prescott and want Dak Prescott to get this deal done and stop pandering around with this situation, because we're hearing too many reports out there that's false, that's leaked or what have you. And I'm gonna tell you guys right up straight up, man. I'm gonna tell you guys. The Cowboys in the business of not paying their guys. Dak Prescott and company in the business of getting the most money. They looking at their particular client and saying, man, all we got from him was around $2 to maybe $3 million. And remember, I guess his contract was like $4 million at the end of his final year, the fourth year, what have you. So they collect 3 or 6%, sometimes 20, I don't know. But they try to get the most money. I'm talking about Dak Prescott agents. So, of course, you know, they're going to shoot for the moon. If you miss, you land amongst the stars type of philosophy. Look, I encourage anybody. If you're trying to buy a house, if you're trying to buy something and you got an agent, you say, and they're going to try to get you the best. They're not going to sit back and say, well, you can only get this. You know, we can only find you a house at this level. Knowing that they're going to look at your stats. They're going to look at your credit score. They're going to look at everything. You see, I'm trying to blend all of this together so that everybody can understand what's going on. It's up to Dak Prescott to sit back and say, well, you know what? At the end of the day, this will be more money than I will ever see. But the agency, they can say, well, if we representing you and we fool around and give you this low contract, then in return, we may not get another person that want to sign up for our agency. We got to fight for you to get the best. And looking back at Dak Prescott, the facilitator of thoughts that he is, the leadership that he got on and off the field, he's going to look at it and say to his agents, you know what? Do whatever it needs to be done. And he's just going to sit back and chill, you say. And of course, it's up to Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones to muddy the waters. Because I have yet to find any report coming from Dak Prescott camp or coming from Dak Prescott mouth saying that he wants $40 million. I have yet to find that report. If you guys can find that report, please post it down in the comment box below. You say your brother wants to know the information. So I can tell you that he would want to have market value at least. And he would want a contract that's equivalent to the boys that just got paid their money. I'm talking about the Goffs of the world, the Carson Wentz, and of course, the Russell Wilson. But I will say this, Cowboy Nation. I will agree with some of the people that look at Dak Prescott and say that he's not worth the grain of salt and he should get paid $25 million or 26 or 27, whatever it may be, that far below the market value. But here's the craziest thing about it. When you start talking in those ramifications and those tones, how can you make the justification? Because Jared Goff, even though he played in the Super Bowl, he haven't won it, but he played into the Super Bowl. And Carson Wentz, although he never won a playoff game, those guys are getting paid, just using the total sum, 33, collectively speaking. So if you pay Dak Prescott $25 million, keep in mind, Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, they already made $25 to $28 million respectfully. You see what I'm saying? Within their first 4 years. Dak Prescott never seen that type of money before. So you mean to tell me that Dak Prescott's supposed to swallow everything that he received from the Joneses administration and say, well, of course, there you go. I'm going to take the 25 mil, which will be, man, so much of a discount from 33 when you can pull up the stats and say, well, they are not that far apart. Even if you say that Jared Goff and Carson Wentz is that much better, or even Russell, dare I say, is that much better. But when you pull up the stats and when you pull up the win, if you just remove the stats out of the equation and just pull up the win column, you still do not see where Dak Prescott should be getting paid almost $13 million less. You see what I'm saying? Or even $10 million less, or even $7 million less, or even $4 million less, or even $3 million less. There's no way that you can make the justifications for that. That's the reality of it, Cowboy Nation. I wish Dak Prescott could be signed for like $22, $23 million. We all wish that. But here's the problem. By the Cowboys waiting and not really readjusting or reassigning the contract, that's why you have these issues. That's why you have those problems. All the Cowboys had to do is in the middle of his contract, when he was balling out, approach Dak Prescott then and scoop him up and say, okay, here's a 3-year or here's a 4-year extension. But by them letting him go into the 2019 season, this is the problem that we have. The money will always be the problem with the Cowboys because they don't know how to just do the money side of the situation. We hold on. We coddle our players for too long. We do. We coddle our players. It's just amazing that they got rid of Taco that quick. But normally we coddle our players too long. We do. And on top of that, even when we do release our players, we get nothing in return. Look, I kid you not. We got nothing in return for Dez Bryant. We got nothing in return for half of the guys. Even Jason Witten, as old as he is, we won't get nothing in return for him, even though he did play up to his contracts and these sorts of things. But old reliable is old and out the door. But the Sean Lees of the world, you see, we don't know how to wheel and deal on the back end of people contracts, you see. I think the Hitchens kid, the Wilson kid, all of those guys' contract just expired and we let them go. We count on compensatory picks, but compensatory picks are doing nothing but recreating the same problem. You take a developmental guy in the 4th or the 5th round and you really don't get nothing in return from them. Just like with Cole Beasley's situation, we got nothing in return. We don't wheel and deal and get first and a 2nd round draft pick because we hold on to the players until they they're worthless. That's just what it goes down. And that's what it boils down to, Cowboy Nation. And what I'm trying to do is trying to figure this thing out. But in reality, it's still us going around in circles. So I'm with the belief now, this will be the pivotal moment to move from Dak Prescott. If they're not really 100% sold on Dak Prescott and they already seen the coach showing their hands and we really want to give him the $35 million. The Colts got the $35 million. Trust me, I think we're going to have like anywhere from $90 to $94 million collectively speaking. The Colts, they're going to have anywhere to $140 million that they can play with as relates to salary cap. So, Colts, you want 2 first rounds, maybe a third for Dak Prescott, or you want straight up 2 first rounds for Dak Prescott, or straight up you want 2 seconds for Dak Prescott and take on his contract, then so be it. If the Cowboys are not willing to sink their teeth into Dak Prescott or hammer in or sink their anchor in on Dak Prescott, and they fiddle-faddling around with this situation, all you doing is muddying the waters, just like they did with Tank Lawrence, just like they did with my guy Dez Bryant. All they're doing is sullying the waters. If you're ready to move on from Dak Prescott, move on with him in graceful times, meaning you get something in return. That's all I'm asking for, because at the end of the day, everybody that's watching this video, 9 times out of 10, you guys been following the Cowboys before you guys knew Dak Prescott exists, before Dak Prescott probably ever picked up a football, you see. So we're Team Cowboys. We're not team individual players. And to me personally, I love Dak Prescott. I love what he brings to the table. But if you guys want to do the inverse Herschel Walker's type of deal and get rid of him for some draft capital or for some new players, then let it roll. Let it roll out. Let me know how you guys feel about that situation. Let me know how you are, because we're going to still continue to hear the same story. Dak Prescott not elite. He can't win in big games. The narrative that they paint, because this is the new narrative. He can't win over what? A plus 500 team. That narrative was just created in 2019. Whereas you got the likings of a Matthew Ryan, who never really won anything. Phillip Rivers of the world, who played 14 to 15 years and never did anything. You see? But get passes after passes after passes. Even when I talked about Drew Brees, I heard excuses after excuses. He went 7-9, 3 straight years in a row. Can you imagine? All they talk about is Tony Romo going 8-8, 8-8, but they never bring up Drew Brees. Oh, he got that Super Bowl, which is cool. But he has Sean Payton as his coach. Huh? Can you imagine if we had Sean Payton as our head coach, you say? We had Jason Garrett for over 10 years with his fingerprints somewhere or shape, form, or fashion in this offense. 13 years collectively speaking, I may add into that. We had a Wade Phillips. You see what I'm saying? So it is what it is. I do know that they sound like excuses, but the craziest thing of it all, we had 3 years with Bill Parcells, and his influences is still on his team to this day. People still recall to say, hey, remember when we had the big Bill Parcells, philosophy? We still using that to this day. That's valuable stuff, Cowboy Nation. Well, I know you guys tired of hearing me ramble and rumble around, but it is what it is. I want to know your thoughts on this, Dak Prescott. I want to know how you guys feel. And remember, Ezekiel Elliott is our elite star player. So when you start talking about, hey, have not won in games over 500 against certain opponents and these sort of things, that should be against our Ezekiel Elliott. He's our end-all be-all from what I understood. He's the reason why we went with the 4th overall pick in 2016, because he's supposed to be the difference maker, not Dak Prescott. But all of a sudden it's flipped on us, and now it's Dak Prescott. He's supposed to be the difference maker, and Ezekiel Elliott not supposed to be that guy. Ezekiel Elliott supposed to be the difference maker. And I'm not selling or denigrating Ezekiel Elliott, because I think that he's top and he's world class as it relates to running the rock. But just as much as you guys say that Dak Prescott, not a top 5 quarterback, or he's not the guy that's going to be able to win us in close games, well, you have to look at the administration who drafted him. The Jerry Wayne Jones who picked him. I'm talking about Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. Because if anything, we wanted it to go anywhere with this team, we should have looked at it and say, okay, we have multiple issues with injuries with Tony Romo. Let's go get our replacement at quarterback then with the 1st round draft pick. And then in the 2nd round, maybe we can get a Derrick Henry or whoever you say. That should have been the move there. We had the 4th pick. You could have moved some draft capital up and picked up I guess, dare I say, a Carson Wentz or a Goff at that time. But see, it don't work that way. And people are thinking that just because you see a Pat Mahomes and Watson doing their things, that it's going to be easy. And of course, Lamar Jackson doing their thing, that it's going to be easy for us to go into this particular draft and pick somebody to be just as spectacular. No, life doesn't work that way. That's been my time. I really thank you all for yours. And remember, you're listening to nothing but the best. Let's go, Cowboy Nation. Let's go. I'm out. Peace.